My mother didn't mean it cruelly. That's the part people never understand. She said it the way you comment on the weather. Light, resigned, already moved on. We were halfway through Christmas dinner, the table crowded with serving bowls and familiar expectations, when she sighed and said, "She's still job hunting," like it was a shared family inconvenience. Dad nodded without looking up from his plate. "Can't keep steady work," he added, chewing slowly. I stood by the tree, untangling a string of lights that refused to cooperate. The pine smell mixed with roasted vegetables and cinnamon candles, warm and heavy. I focused on the knot in my hands instead of the knot in my chest. They weren't angry. They were certain. Certainty can be sharper than insults. I didn't correct them. I never did anymore. I'd learned that explaining myself only made them more comfortable misunderstanding me. So I looped the lights around the lower branches, testing each section until it glowed softly. "My name is Claire Donovan, I'm 30 years old, and the night my parents quietly dismissed my life at Christmas dinner was the same night the world learned who I really was. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know." My aunt laughed lightly, trying to soften the moment. "You'll find something soon, honey," she said, passing the potatoes. "Everything works out." I smiled at her, polite and practiced. Across the room, the television murmured in the background, tuned to a news channel my father never turned off. It was usually just noise, markets, weather, headlines meant for other people. Tonight I barely noticed it. I'd driven 3 hours to be there. Took the back roads to avoid traffic. Wrapped gifts I paid for myself. Slept in my childhood bedroom with the uneven floorboard that still creaked when you stepped too close to the window. Job hunting. That was the word they liked. It sounded harmless. Temporary. Directionless. They didn't ask what I was building. They never asked what I was working on. They asked if I'd heard back from anyone, like I was waiting to be chosen instead of creating something from scratch. I remembered being 22, sitting at this same table, telling them I wanted to start my own company. My father had laughed then too. Not loudly. Just enough. "Be realistic," he'd said. "Get a real job first." So I did. Then I quit. Then I started again. The tree lights finally cooperated, glowing evenly. I stepped back to adjust a crooked ornament. My mother watched me, her expression softening just a little. "You don't have to decorate alone," she said. "You can sit." "I like this," I replied. And I meant it. From the corner of the room, the television volume rose slightly. The anchor's voice sharpened, shifting into that tone reserved for urgency. "We interrupt our regular programming for breaking news." Dad glanced up automatically. Old habits. I kept winding lights. After months of speculation, the mystery tech founder behind one of the year's fastest-growing AI platforms has been identified. My hands stilled. Not because I was surprised. Because timing, even when you plan for it, can still feel unreal. Dad turned up the volume. On screen, graphics flashed. Stock footage. Headlines. A blurred silhouette slowly resolving into a clearer image. My mother frowned. "What's this about?" "Tech stuff," Dad said. "Some startup." I stepped back from the tree, heart steady, oddly calm. I'd known this would happen eventually. I just hadn't expected it to happen here. Sources confirmed the founder operated under a pseudonym for over 3 years. My sister leaned forward. "Why hide?" I smiled faintly. The anchor continued. "Citing privacy and family reasons." The camera cut to a photo. My photo. Not staged. Not glamorous. Just me speaking at a conference last spring, hair pulled back, eyes focused on something beyond the frame. The room went very quiet. My mother's fork paused midair. Dad's jaw slackened. The announcer said my name clearly, confidently, like it had always belonged on the news. Claire Donovan, age 30, has been confirmed as the founder and chief architect of. My father stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. That's not. He stopped. Swallowed. "That's you." I nodded once. My mother's face drained of color. "Claire, what is this?" I walked to the couch and lowered myself onto the armrest, careful, composed. "This is what I've been working on," I said. "But you said, my sister started." "I said I was busy," I replied. "You heard job hunting." The anchor kept talking. Funding rounds. Market impact. Boards. Numbers that made my father sit back down slowly like gravity had changed. My aunt covered her mouth. Oh my God. My mother stared at the screen, then at me, eyes searching for the version of me she thought she knew. You never told us, she said. I tried, I said gently. You told me to be realistic. The television shifted to footage of my team. The office. My voice playing back through speakers I didn't recognize as mine. The tree lights blinked softly behind us. Dad cleared his throat. Why would you hide this? I looked at him. Because I wanted it to succeed on its own, I said. Not as a family project. Not as something you could worry over or manage. My mother sank into her chair. We thought you were struggling, she whispered. I said. Just not the way you assumed. Silence settled over the room, thick and unfamiliar. No one reached for food. No one laughed. Outside, snow began to fall, quiet against the windows. The anchor concluded the segment, praising innovation, resilience, vision. Words that felt strange applied to me in this space at this table. My father rubbed his hands together slowly. So, you're not job hunting. I met his eyes, steady. No, I said. I'm building. He nodded once as if recalibrating his understanding of the world. My mother stood and walked toward me. She hesitated, then reached out, touching my arm lightly. I wish you'd trusted us, she said. I held her gaze. I wish you'd trusted me. The tree lights hummed softly, filling the silence. For the first time all night no one corrected me. No one minimized me. No one spoke over my life. The television faded to another story, another family's surprise. But ours wasn't finished. Not yet. The room didn't explode the way movies promise. It didn't turn loud or dramatic. It just went quiet, as if someone had removed the air carefully, one breath at a time. My father stared at the television like it might correct itself if he waited long enough. My sister's mouth opened, then closed again, her certainty dissolving in small, unguarded movements. My aunt reached for her water glass with shaking hands, finally exhaling the breath she'd been holding. My mother stood up. She turned off the burner beneath the gravy, set the spoon down and said, "Come to the kitchen with me." Her voice wasn't sharp or kind. It was inevitable. I followed her past the old wall calendar that still hadn't been replaced, past the drawer that always stuck, into the bright kitchen light that revealed every tired line in her face. She leaned against the counter, folding her arms like she was bracing herself. "So," she said, "you lied to us." I shook my head slowly. I stayed quiet. "That's lying," she replied, but her voice wavered. I watched the unused kettle, the reflection of the overhead light shimmering on its surface. "You didn't want details," I said. "You wanted a label. Job hunting was a label you understood." Her eyes dropped. "We were worried." "You were embarrassed," I said gently. "There's a difference." He flinched, not in anger but recognition. It softened her. "I wanted you safe," she whispered. "I wanted you settled." A memory drifted in. Her ironing my school shirt when I was 12, smoothing the collar flat, telling me life was easier when you fit in. The thought moved through me quietly, like smoke through an open window. "I am safe," I said. "I'm just not small." From the dining room, my father's voice rose, strained, asking if the news could be wrong, if it could be some other Claire Donovan. My mother closed her eyes briefly as if sound itself hurt. "Why didn't you tell us when it got big?" she asked. "Because when it was small you laughed," I said. "And when it was growing you doubted. I didn't want you inside my head when the stakes got high." He swallowed. "Your father will take this personally." "He always does," I replied. "Even when he never tries to understand it." My father appeared in the doorway then, face flushed with something that wasn't anger yet. Humiliation maybe. "Claire," he said, "why would you let strangers on television know you before your own family?" "Because strangers didn't tell me to be realistic," I answered. His jaw clenched. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" I asked. "Failure or your disappointment?" "You think I'm disappointed now?" he snapped. "I think you're confused," I said calmly. "Because you don't know where to place me when I'm not behind." My sister drifted into the kitchen, arms crossed tightly. "So you're rich?" she said like the word didn't belong to me. "I'm responsible," I corrected. "For people's jobs. For decisions. I'm tired a lot." She scoffed weakly. You could have helped Mom and Dad. They didn't ask for help, I replied. They asked for control. Dad took a step closer. Are you cutting us off now? Is this revenge? The word hung there, dramatic and fragile. No, I said. This is boundaries. Revenge would have been letting you believe I was nothing. Mom inhaled sharply. What do you want from us? I considered it carefully. Years of quiet dismissal, of being reduced to a cautionary tale, pressed behind my ribs. I want curiosity, I said. I want respect when no one's watching. And I want you to stop narrating my life for me. Dad looked smaller suddenly. I don't know how to talk about this. Start with congratulations, my aunt said from the doorway, voice tentative but firm. It's okay to be proud. Dad hesitated, then nodded once. Congratulations, he said, awkward and honest. Mom cleared her throat. Congratulations, she echoed, softer. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. We returned to the dining room. The food had gone cold. No one noticed. The table felt different now, reset by truth rather than ceremony. Dad asked what the company did, stumbling through terms. I explained patiently, not because I owed him but because I wanted to see if he could learn. A memory slipped in of my father teaching me to drive, his hand hovering near the wheel, not touching, always ready to correct. Even then, belief came with supervision. My sister asked if I had a title. When I said so, she looked away, cheeks flushed. Later, as plates were cleared and the house settled, my mother walked me to the front door. The porch light cast a soft yellow circle on the steps. The air smelled like pine needles and distant chimney smoke. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't realize my words were a cage. I didn't realize I'd outgrown it, I replied. He touched my sleeve, hesitant. Call me when you get home. I will, I said. If you answer. She smiled, embarrassed. I will. I drove away slowly, snow beginning to fall, the road familiar yet changed. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something I had to justify. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story, and don't forget to subscribe. Not because success fixes families, but because truth deserves witnesses. I parked at my hotel and sat for a moment, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. I looked up at the dark sky, feeling lighter, not because I was recognized but because I was no longer hiding. I turned the key, stepped out into the cold, and carried my life forward without apology. Sometimes truth finds its voice,